When talking about the Detroit Lions defense, everybody likes to focus on Aiden Hutchinson, the superstar pass rusher. Everybody likes to focus on Aleem McNeil and DJ Reader, the NFL's new top defensive tackle duo. They like to focus on first-round pick Terrion Arnold, the new flashy first-round cornerback that's supposed to be the new number one guy. But a lot of people overlook Brian Branch, the Detroit Lions' second-year standout superstar, who as a rookie defender was one of the Detroit Lions' most impressive. Now, Brian Branch plays a much less valuable position than, say, Aiden Hutchinson or Terrion Arnold. He's a player that hasn't made very many splashes this offseason due to a recovering surgery, but with an expanded role in 2024, Brian Branch is ready to take a step into superstardom in the NFL, and he very well may repeat as the Detroit Lions' most outstanding defensive player in 2024. And today, we're going to take a look at Brian Branch, his role on the defense, his expanded role in 2024, and what the expectation should be for the Detroit Lions' former second-round selection. So, taking a look at Brian Branch, he had a very strange fall in the 2023 NFL draft. A player that was projected to be a top 20 talent in the NFL didn't get drafted until the 45th overall selection, where the Detroit Lions traded up with the division rival Green Bay Packers to select Brian Branch in the second round. Now, his play on the field was never the issue. Brian Branch started 3 years at the University of Alabama, where he had 172 tackles, 19 and a half tackles for loss, 4 sacks, 4 interceptions, 23 passes defended, and a fumble recovery. In his 3 years at Alabama, Brian Branch was a 2020 national championship winner. He was a 2022 first-team All-American, as well as a 2022 second-team All-SEC. He played every position from cornerback to linebacker to safety, and he even rushed off the edge at times for Alabama, being one of the nation's most versatile defenders as well as one of the nation's best. Now, one of the big reasons that Brian Branch fell through the draft process is largely due to his RAS and athletic testing scores. Brian Branch graded out with a 5.27 RAS score, which is right around the NFL average and right around the 50th percentile. He graded out with poor size, being just 5'11" and a little bit undersized for his weight. He graded out with good explosiveness and good speed, running a 4.58 40-yard dash, which isn't great, but isn't necessarily the worst or a death sentence for a cornerback, but also graded out with very poor agilities, especially in the shuttle time, although he did not run a 3-cone at the NFL Combine. So his RAS score was a little bit low, but his production on the field, his versatility, and his leadership were all things that led people to believing that despite the RAS score, he was a consensus top 20 player. He was a lock for the first round, and some team would be lucky enough to add a great player, a great leader, a great worker, and a player that would impact your defense immediately. Now, after the fact, we know that unfortunately did not happen. Brian Branch ended up going in the second round with the 45th overall selection, and he fell for one reason or another through the first round of the NFL draft. Now, this is not particularly uncommon for slot cornerbacks. Players that are great players in the NFL and great players at college football tend to fall when they don't have a highly valued position, right? They tend to fall when either they play a lot of positions but don't necessarily play one of high importance, or if they just don't have a solidified spot, and a lot of teams don't know where they're going to fit at the next level. We saw this with Brian Branch in 2023, and it's a big reason why in the pre-draft process this year, I said that Cooper DeJean was probably going to be a second-round pick because he played a lot of different positions. Yeah, he played boundary cornerback like Brian Branch did at times at Alabama, but he also played safety. He also played slot cornerback and looked really good at all of them, but didn't necessarily stand out at the boundary cornerback position, where is the most valuable position on the field for him. So with that being the case, with him being kind of a slot cornerback / safety hybrid, he fell out of the first round because that position isn't valued. And despite having an even higher RAS score than Branch, he ended up going at roughly the same pick in the concurrent draft. So it's not uncommon for players at this position to fall, but Brian Branch did not let that stop him. Brian Branch came into minicamp as the 45th overall pick, the 4th player selected from the Detroit Lions 2023 class, and he was outstanding. Brian Branch in 2023 played in 15 games for the Detroit Lions, totaling 74 tackles, 7 tackles for loss, 3 quarterback hits, 1 sack, a forced fumble, 3 interceptions, one of those being a touchdown in the first game of his NFL career, on top of 13 other passes being defended. That led Brian Branch to being named the 5th player in voting for Defensive Rookie of the Year, 4th in voting for All-Pro votes at the slot cornerback position, and easily being named a top 10 player at his position despite his young age and relative inexperience. So you take that productive rookie year where you finished top 5 in Rookie of the Year voting, top 5 in All-Pro voting at your position, easily a top 10 player in the slot. You take away all of that fantastic play his rookie year, and now you go into year 2 with the expectations that Brian Branch could have an expanded role. Brian Branch could play even more football and be more impactful in 2024 than he was in his outstanding rookie season. Now, Brian Branch, despite being phenomenal, despite playing in 15 games and having all of those statistics and all of those high-ranking people voting for him to be one of the best players at his role, Brian Branch played just 77% of defensive snaps for the Detroit Lions when he was on the field and when he was healthy. And during one of the biggest performances of the season, in the NFC Championship game, when they chanced to go to the Super Bowl, Brian Branch took a back seat and sat on the bench for a majority of the game, playing just 41% of defensive snaps. Arguably the Detroit Lions' best defensive player, and certainly their best player in the secondary, played just 41% of snaps in the NFC Championship game, in the Lions' biggest game in arguably their franchise's history. And Brian Branch didn't even play half of the reps. That led to a lot of fan uproar, and it led to a lot of people saying that Brian Branch was being underutilized in Aaron Glenn's defense in favor of players that weren't nearly as talented, in favor of players like Kendall Vildor and Cam Sutton, and even some of the other safeties in the room that weren't playing nearly as well as Brian Branch was. So going into 2024, the Lions have put a very large emphasis on the fact that Brian Branch will have an expanded role. Defensive assistant Jim O'Neill said that last year they were a little more hesitant with Brian Branch to just kind of fix him into one spot because he was a rookie. But now that he's going into year 2, they believe that Brian Branch and the coaching staff will be more aggressive with him and his ability to play different positions. He says that the defensive coordinator, Aaron Glenn, will be more aggressive with Brian Branch, and that Brian Branch will have a far expanded role and a more expanded role and a more impactful role in 2024. And I think that's a great idea for the Detroit Lions. Well, I do believe that Brian Branch in nickel formations will play the slot cornerback position, and I do believe that he is the best player for that spot, and I think that's the best spot for him as a player with his skill set. There is no reason that Brian Branch can't play the safety position. On a position where the Lions are in potentially a base personnel or a dime personnel, or they play with a bigger nickel cornerback in the slot, there is a chance for Brian Branch to be the third safety, to be the second safety. I would argue that Brian Branch is the most talented defensive player that the Detroit Lions have, and he should not come off the field for any snap outside of injuries or rest. If Brian Branch is healthy and able to play on every single snap, he should be playing on every single snap. And I love that Brian Branch's versatility allows him to move around in the defense. And I think a lot of fans are really excited to see how defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn is going to use his second-year superstar. Right? Brian Branch is a player that can cover. He can tackle. He can be physical in press and also play off-man coverage. He's great with instincts in zone. He's great with being sticky in man coverage. He is a player that does everything at an extremely high level, and he has the ability to play cornerback. He has the ability to play slot. He has the ability to play, the deep safety or the, box safety. He can play every single secondary position on this football team, and there is no reason that Brian Branch should ever play 41% of the snaps in any game at any time for any reason. Brian Branch is arguably the most talented player on the Detroit Lions defense. And with an expanded role in 2024, I think Brian Branch will be recognized as one of the Detroit Lions' elite defenders. He will be recognized as one of the best players at his position. And I think by the end of 2024, if you were to tell me that the Lions have one player in contention for Defensive Player of the Year, as great as it would be for Aiden Hutchinson to have that type of a season, as great as it would be for Carlton Davis or Kirby Joseph or Ifeatu Melifonwu to have that kind of an impact, I would put my money on Brian Branch for Defensive Player of the Year for the Detroit Lions, because I think with an expanded role, he will easily be the most impactful, will easily be around the ball the most, and I think he will have the biggest impact on the Detroit Lions defense this season. But with all of that being said, that is all I have for you guys today. That is kind of the breakdown of Brian Branch as he expands his role into year 2, what we're expecting from the young superstar safety, and what we can expect to see as far as where he lines up position by position. With all of that being said, that is all I have for you guys today. If you have yet to subscribe to the channel, please go down below and do so. We are 15 subscribers away from 4,000, and we are looking to hit that before minicamp kicks off in a couple of weeks. So if you could help us do that, that would be so incredibly helpful. And of course, if you subscribe, hit the bell notification so you never miss a daily Detroit Lions upload. But with all of that being said, that's all I got for you guys right now. Thank you all so much for watching. Let me know down in the comments below what you think Brian Branch's role will look like in 2024. Be very curious what you guys have to say and what you guys think about the Lions superstar safety. But with that being said, that's all I got for you guys right now. Thank you all so much for watching. And until next time, and as always, go Lions.